We will now discuss the remaining concepts. They are deductive versus inductive learning. Deductive learning. It starts by giving learner rules, then examples, and then practice. So deductive learning starts from generalization, moving on to specification. In this type of learning, the rules and the understanding of the grammar are given to the learners. Then examples are also explained with regard to the use of those rules, grammatical rules, followed by the practice done by the learners. It is teacher-centered. This kind of approach or this kind of learning heavily relies on the teacher or teacher's input. It's the teacher who takes charge of the learning process. He or she provides the learner with the understanding, the guidelines of the grammatical rules, provides students with material or examples, and then encourages student to practice. Based on the feedback that the learners provide, they determine the proficiency level of the learner. The example in this type of learning is the form and use of the third conditional is explained to learners. Then they have a gap fill exercise to complete, then prepare their own examples. So first of all, what needs to be mastered or what needs to be learned is introduced by the teacher, explained to the learners, and then students are given with the exercises specific to that particular form, grammatical form or grammatical rule, and then based on that, students develop their own examples. Features of this type of learning include that it is suitable with lower level learners who need a clear base from which to begin with a new language item, or with learners who are accustomed to a more traditional approach and so who lack the training to find rules themselves. So it is a very traditional approach where a learner is dependent on the teacher's input and the teacher's guideline. Inductive learning. Inductive learning starts with examples and asks learners to find rules. So in this type of learning, examples and activities are given to learners. The rules are not explained or introduced. It is learner-centered, which means that learner takes charge of the learning process by getting into the process of examining the activities or developing the understanding of the examples by finding the rules themselves. It can be compared with a deductive approach that starts by giving learners rules, then examples, then practice. But in inductive learning, it's the learners who are conducting the activities and later on find out a particular form or rule that was meant to be understood or learned. Example: learners listen to a conversation that includes examples of the use of the third conditional. Teacher checks that the learners understand the meaning of its use through checking their comprehension of the listening text, and only after this focuses on the form. So it is the activity or the example first which is introduced, and learners perform what is required. It is after checking whatever they have done the teacher makes them focus on a particular form which has been integrated in this activity. The features of this type of learning include that it enables learners to notice, by way of the examples, how the concept works. So this particular type of learning makes students notice. Noticing is key to this learning process. The students or learners are there to notice what they are required to learn. It encourages learners' involvement in learning. It facilitates learners' engagement in the learning process, where students perform free of any pressure from the teacher. To conclude, deductive process follows learning from generalization, which means from the understanding of rules to specific examples. That first, it's the understanding of the rules and then applying them to specific examples, whereas inductive process follows learning specific examples to generalization, is the examples or activities through which learner understands the grammatical rules.